Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Please come inside, take off your shoes, relax. We are here with the STOMP Wrestling Rewind retrospective review podcast. My name is Michael Lawrence Potter, MLP, coming to you from beautiful sunny Hyogo, Japan, and over in freezing cold Johannesburg are we in the East Rand or in the South today?
We're in the East Rand.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. We are talking to 1/5 of Stomp Wrestling, the mastermind,
Yes.
the brains behind the operation. You know him as WrestleDrop. I know him as my sweet, succulent Ricky. How you doing, sir?
Sweet succulent.
Just go with it,
Let's
buddy.
breeze past that.
Through.
Let's breeze past that.
No, it's right through the intro. Let's make it happen. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Excited for this. Excited to talk about bad wrestling. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say, I think you might want to get your head examined if you're excited about such things.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
if you ever need someone to talk to, know that there are people out there. Not me, obviously, but someone.
Not you.
Like somebody. No, please don't. No, like someone will talk to you.
I wanted to ask you. We forgot to talk about it last week. You mentioned it the previous week. So you mentioned it, I think, on the Rumble podcast. So if you guys haven't watched that, cheap plug, go check it out. You mentioned that you were going to go to a wrestling show.
I did a little more than that. I attended the fantastic Ring Soul Bar in Kobe, Japan.
Okay.
And I started chatting to Brother Hashi and the manager Yometsusa-san. And it kind of just started out as a conversation. And before I knew it, I was in the ring, in my jeans, and there was a young birthday boy who was attending the show who decided that it was going to be his dream to give a clothesline to somebody. And I, of course, being a gaijin with way too many highballs in him, said, "Take your best shot, kiddo." And all I can say to Hideki is, "My man, you got a lariat like Stan Hansen, attaboy." So I took a couple of bumps. If you're ever around Kobe, Japan, I cannot prescribe you going to Ring Soul anymore. Fantastic wrestling-themed bar. The walls are just adorned with fantastic wrestling memorabilia. Brother Hashi was showing me some things that were signed by the great Muta, things that were signed by Giant Baba.
Crazy.
I got a bit emotional, I won't lie, and I managed to do probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, which was to sit in an empty wrestling ring and watch a big flat screen TV. And Brother Hashi said, "What match do you want to watch?" I said, "Can we watch Misawa versus Kobashi?" He's like, "Done." And it was genuinely one of the best nights of my life. A little bit painful, but hey, that's wrestling, man. Pretty good day.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm sure you were in your absolute element there, to be honest, when you saw like the Muda sign stuff and all of that stuff. I'm sure it was your, like, I wouldn't say a childhood dream, but you felt like a kid, I'm sure.
Oh, and I did not keep my composure. Like, when you meet new people, especially in the wrestling industry, there's this idea that you have to like be a bit restrained and a little bit chilled.
Don't be a
But
bug.
I think once he started showing me stuff signed by Muta, I think I was like, pretty much the best way I can describe it is, those like viral videos where girls are going crazy for Taylor Swift. Like, that's kind of how I think that I was reacting.
Yeah.
But enough about that. We have to get away from the beautiful year of 2024 and go all the way back to the 1st of February. We are out of freezing cold New York January, and we're starting to get into somewhat the distant spring of New York. It is the 1st of February, 1993. Let's talk about what happened this day in history. Now, I'm not even going to mention movies and music because Whitney Houston ain't going anywhere. Al Pacino's Scent of Woman is not going anywhere. Let's talk about what was happening in the news. So the Suez TM-16, in case you don't know, that is a Russian shuttle, safely lands back in Earth's atmosphere. A New York judge, Sol Witcher, is indicted for harassing Joe Sitaru. And honestly, I am so surprised that Rob Bartlett or Vince McMahon, who are usually very cunning and very callous towards these current affairs, didn't jump all over this, because it was a New York judge. It was a big New York case. And I was like waiting, and like Bartlett just didn't say anything about it.
I suppose the show
very
was
interesting.
pre-taped, so
I guess, but I mean, I can always imagine like Vince calling up Bartlett like 2 a.m, like, "Have you heard? Like, let's, but like, with hindsight, I think maybe Vince wasn't too keen on jumping all over a sexual harassment court case. Yeah, because karma's a bitch, unfortunately.
I kind of wish he did now.
Yep, that would have made for a very, very good, a good look in an ironic sense. But we have no time for that because your uncle and mine, Mr. Davey Meltzer, has just put out the new Wrestling Observer, and I'm going to read a couple of extracts because I feel like that is going to give a better round of the houses what's happening in the wrestling world at this time. Ric Flair has not signed with WCW.
Ooh.
I know, right? Like we all thought that was gonna we all thought that was gonna be a done deal.
Like
we
straight
all thought,
away.
Okay,
yeah.
Final match, he's in. But this is why, to all of you who are thinking about leaving your jobs, don't leave until you've got something else lined up, because Ric Flair left, and the first bad negotiation was for money, royalty, and place on the card, and as a result, Ric Flair has not signed a deal. And as if to almost spite or entice, you can decide which one it is, Ric Flair into the Federation, they have made a big signing, and I'll give you a clue. He's going to sign whether he wants to or not.
I'm lost.
The British Bulldog, sir. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, has signed with the WCW, and there was a very big sense of fanfare, especially in the UK. There was a press conference. It was covered in the Daily Mirror. And although it's a really big deal, and Davey Boy Smith, obviously a fantastic talent, and a big deal that he was coming to WCW, it does seem like a bit of a jab at Ric Flair to be like, we've got the money. If you don't want to come, we'll get somebody else.
We all know how that worked out. It didn't quite work out for the best, you know. His second run in the WWF was definitely better than his run in WCW.
I don't know. I really like those short films that him and Sting did, like when they were doing the Baywatch crossover. Like, it's campy as hell, but I love
some of the matches though, especially when he was. This is arguably like his worst time when it comes to his abuse on drugs,
substance abuse. Yeah,
substance abuse. So it was showing. It was coming through in his work. Let's just say that.
Rock and roll lifestyle, man. You don't know how it's going to affect you, but the audience, we're not stupid. But let's get on to. You'll remember 2 weeks ago on our Royal Rumble episode, I said, the Royal Rumble 1993 is a bit down from 1992, but it's not really a big deal. I have to correct myself because Mr. Meltzer has been absolutely seething about the Royal Rumble, and rightly so, because the Royal Rumble 1993 has the lowest buy rate at that point. The only thing that it was beaten by was this Tuesday in Texas, which wasn't exactly like, so that is the caliber that we're dealing with here. Like, I kind of thought, it's a bit down, but comparatively speaking,
no, it was on the floor. It was right there on the floor.
This was not a good match at all. But what has been quite interesting is, even though pay-per-view has been flagging, it turns out that TV ratings have been doing very well for Raw as well as WCW for the last 2 weeks. Quite funny that after that first episode of Raw that wasn't that great, all of a sudden the TV ratings are starting to spike and get better and better. And as a result, WCW are trying to compete with Raw and are putting on better week-to-week television. The ratings on the TV shows are the highest it's been in a while. Pay-per-views, not doing so well.
Why do you think Raw... Carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say, and another reason that WCW is now trying to pump up their numbers and pump up and get some more viewership is they have just signed a developmental as well as a crossover deal with my father and yours, Mr. Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Why do you think the business or the TV deals or the TV numbers were doing so well at that time? Because, let's face it, Raw was crap. Raw was not good. The first Raw was terrible. Like, we've had a few shining moments, but other than that, it's been terrible.
Well, I think that there's a lot of reasons for it, and I don't think that you can just look at the artistic side of Raw. I think you also have to look at consumer trends. That it's January. Nobody's got money in January. We've all blown our paychecks on Christmas, on expensive holidays and gifts for relatives we don't like, and now we're trying to tightening up our belt buckles a bit. Not a lot of people are parting with their money for the pay-per-views, which, for you kids out there, before there was the network, People had to shell out a lot of money to watch the pay-per-view. And I think there is just a sense of economic fatigue where people are a lot, and it's also cold. I mean, it's January in America, especially in New York. It's probably freezing there at the moment. People maybe don't want to go out to the stadiums or part with their money to buy pay-per-views. Sitting at home at the TV. I mean, it's 1993, so you're probably eating a frosted Pop-Tart and drinking like a Zap Cola or something. That I think that sounds a lot more appealing than probably going out to a pay-per-view or maybe parting with your money to go to a show. And speaking of which, I don't know about you, but are you excited about the Marty Jannetty Shawn Michaels rematch after that absolute killer cliffhanger at the Royal Rumble? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Don't be. Marty Jannetty just got fired. Can you guess what for? Take a guess. Take a guess.
Drug abuse.
Nope. It might be related, but that's not why he did it.
The apparent murder that he self-confessed to on Facebook 20 years later.
No, we're not there yet.
Okay.
But it's somewhere in the middle. He just punched a police officer. Just punched.
That is somewhere in the middle, though.
Yeah, it's weird. Like on the spectrum of murder and drugs, it's right in the middle. Yeah, Marty Jannetty has basically just turned down the biggest payday of his life and probably one of the biggest mainstream pushes he could get because he just punched a police officer. And it's again one of these heartbreaking tales of, as a wrestling fan, you're quite selfish because it's in the middle of a very hot angle. That rivalry was not over by a long shot. Like there was so much more gas in the tank. But as a person, you kind of think to yourself, damn, what a loss. You think about all the paychecks, all of the publicity, all of the exposure, all of the goodwill is just gone. Because I think Marty Jannetty, I think if we had strapped the belts on him, would anyone have really minded? No. Like him as an Intercontinental Champion, fantastic. Would have suited him like a glove. You could have had him and Shawn trading it back and forth. You could have had him and Razor trading it back and forth. Would have been stunning. But unfortunately, he is at the UIF line looking for other employment.
Especially during this time, the new generation era, the smaller guys were coming through, the younger guys were coming through. Not that Marty was extremely young, but he was young.
He was in the demographic.
Yeah. This was a time where you'd think to yourself, okay, he could do something. I'm not saying he's going to be world champion, but he could do something. And he messed it up. He sure did. Up. Yeah, it's sad, man. It's one of those. I mean, have you watched his Dark Side of the Ring?
Unfortunately, yes. It's heartbreaking.
Sad, man. It's really sad. But what can we do?
We move on. But from something that is, quite tragic to something that was very hilarious. Now, in Philadelphia, there was a wrestling convention that was done in order to raise money for charity. Many people on the card from many different federations, including the fantastic Kerry Von Erich. But Kerry Von Erich was supposed to be a masked entrant into a battle royal managed by the gorgeous Nancy Sullivan, also known as Woman. And she was going to lead this masked entrant into the Rumble, and he was going to win the whole thing, and it was going to be this big mystery. There was just one problem with it. Kerry Von Erich was wearing a robe. On the back of the robe, it was written, Kerry Von Erich.
Oh...
And Nancy Sullivan, being a very, very smart mind in business, said, honey, take the robe off. We'll get you something else. Just take the robe off.
Okay.
Kerry was like, yep, totally, no problem. He forgot. And he walks out. And if you watch like some of the fan cam footage, Nancy Sullivan, because she's a damn professional and so underrated, she starts trying to sort of like stand in front of Kerry Von Erich's emblem on the back of his jacket. Mm-hmm. But I mean, obviously, like unless she jumps on him like a backpack, there's not much that she can do. And I mean, it's Kerry Von Erich, so he's and that was another thing. He was still acting like Kerry Von Erich. He was doing the big Texas wave and the spin around. So everyone was like, well, this is not going to be much of it. I mean, that's Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah. And I mean, she's probably like drawing more attention to it actually by trying to like constantly stand and trying to cover up the word Kerry Von Erich.
Exactly. it just
Wrestlers
made me
can be
giggle a
super
lot.
dumb at times. Honestly, they can be so dumb at times. I don't know what.
Yep.
And that includes you, Michael, former wrestler. Or not former
Oh
wrestler.
god, yeah.
Damn,
Oh
I
god, yeah.
retired you. I retired you already. As
Yeah.
a trained wrestler, I'm sure you know that.
Unfortunately, when you take bumps for a living,
CTE is a thing.
I wouldn't even say CTE is a thing. I think it's just if you're dumb enough to step into a place where you're getting slammed onto wooden boards and canvas, I mean, you're probably not like, there's probably something a little bit wrong with you. But I think that just did make me giggle. But the one thing that made me laugh about that story was also there are certain wrestlers, you can put any mask on them. We're going to know exactly who they are. You know exactly who it is. Like I can't remember. I think it was the Black Phantom was his name, where they put Rick Rude in a mask.
Did he still do the gyrating hips and everything?
He didn't do the gyrating hips, but it was the early 90s. There were exactly two people who were built like Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior. That's it. Those are the only people who looked like that. So the minute he got in the ring, we're like, that's Rick Rude. Like that. How could that be anyone else?
Yeah, I hear you.
So it was just
his
one.
body
It was
is
one
so
of the.
recognizable. As weird as that sounds, pause. This is
No,
not
it's
one
true.
of those moments, but tall,
No, but it's true.
big, especially like early 90s where he was a bit jacked.
Yeah.
But he specifically was like really tall, skinny legs. Still, at the end of the day, yeah, you'd clearly see it's him.
That's Rick Rude. Of course it is. So that was a little bit funny. And what I'll tell you what wasn't funny. Or at least that's what the critics and the test audiences thought. Hulk Hogan's new movie, Mr. Nanny. Mr. Nanny's test screening took place earlier that month, and apparently no one liked it.
Are you surprised?
No, but the thing is that apparently the test audiences just did not respond to it at all. They didn't find it funny, and the critical reviews were shocking. But what they have decided is that, well, this is a movie geared towards kids. It doesn't make any sense to try and get it in early January. Let's try again in summer when the kids are on holiday, summer vacation. Let's try it again. Now, I don't think Mr. Nanny went on to any severe box office success. But
if you guys hear like a serious helicopter, I might be getting swatted.
Oh, dear Lord. They found the files. They found the files.
Wait. That's too far. What kind of files are you talking about?
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's what the prosecutor is going to ask. Let's hope I don't turn state witness. That's all I'm going to say. But it seems as though that Ric Flair, even though he kind of left with a lot of pomp and circumstance, there was somebody who very quietly left. And I'll give you a clue. You might be half the man that he is, but he has half the brain that you do.
Psycho Sid.
Damn right, man. Psycho Sid, who has been requesting his release for a very long time, finally, very quietly, was released on the hush hush from WWF.
No, that means we're gonna wait. He was released from WWF.
Correct. He was on his way to WCW.
Okay, I thought it was the other way around. I was about to cry. I was gonna say we're gonna have to watch him as well. Okay.
No,
thank God.
No, you're gonna have
thank
to.
God.
You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait a little bit. This is one of his revolving door sort of things.
Okay.
Sid Vicious. The old joke is he would bounce between WCW, WWF, maybe a little bit of ECW here and there, and he would also legitimately play professional baseball. Like that was just. He was a very talented athlete. Yeah, he was a very talented athlete, and basically the joke was with Sid, you put the world title on him. It's always baseball season, and then cheers. He was out. I don't exactly know why he left the WWF this time, but apparently he wanted out for a long time. And much like many people who request releases from Vince, when they ask for it, that's when they just disappear from TV.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened to Sid Vicious.
Well, I'm not going to ask any questions. All I know is I'm glad he's gone.
Well, hey, look, Sid, you either love him or hate him. I think he's cool. I think he's all right. But here is another thing that was happening on the other side of WCW. Now, during this time, like I said, Smoky Mountain Wrestling is hiring, and because they are doing a little partnership with WCW. But WCW, they usually take a lot of different talents from a lot of different feeder seasons. Now, somebody who was fresh onto the shores for doing a little bit in Michigan and a little bit in Japan just passed his tryout and has now signed a developmental contract with WCW. A young man by the name of Robbie V. Does that name mean anything to you?
Robbie V.
Hmm.
I can think of one name, but I feel like it's totally wrong.
Lay it on me.
Is it Vader?
No.
Yeah, totally wrong. Vader was already a thing at this time.
Robbie V is a young and plucky Rob Van Dam.
Okay.
Just been signed to a little developmental deal in WCW for a little short stint. And it's so interesting to see this like young, plucky little baby face Rob Van Dam. You know, he's got his kicks and stuff from Japan, and he's just so happy and so
sorry.
He's just happy to be there. And you watch this and you go, oh man, you're gonna be so cool soon. You don't know it yet, but you're gonna be so cool soon. Yeah, so Robbie V is making a slight wave over in WCW, but I'll tell you who's making a very, very big wave over in WCW is the star of critically acclaimed Oscar-nominated film Mr. Nanny, Hulk Hogan. There have been rumors, they're very slight rumors, but there have been rumors that Hulk Hogan might be in negotiations with Mr. Ted Turner. Very interesting.
So Dave Meltzer was reporting on this early already.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Uncle Dave knew everything at this time, eh? Now he knows nothing. Sad. So sad.
Hey, listen, as a wrestler, you never want to make Dave Meltzer angry, but I will say that his sources were pretty astute at this time. And another thing that he reported on, which is quite interesting, and it's going to make you hate the angle even more. Do you remember 2 weeks ago when Doink the Clown attacked Crush with his cast arm in a very sort of uncomfortable and a bit too real assault?
Yes.
Well, the WWF actually received complaints and phone calls about this, not because the angle was too violent, but because the angle was a little bit too reticent of an injury to a Mr. Bird of the NY Jets, a baseball player who had been injured and basically paralyzed. And the way that they were selling Crush's injury was pretty much the exact same way they shot it, the exact same phraseology, the way that they carried him off the set. Basically, people were complaining, this is a bit too soon. Like the best way that I can describe it is if you watched a very hectic rugby injury and someone got paralyzed. And then the next day on Raw, like Seth Rollins gets a bad shoulder breaker, and then like they're carting him off and they're talking about whether or not he can wrestle again. Yeah, so basically, Vincent, in an effort to stay topical, decided to do something very close to the bone, and basically the Allied press and the viewers went, not only does this suck because it sucks, but what the hell are you thinking? Like, this is way too soon.
That does sound like Vince. I mean, he did do, for example, the terrorism gimmick with what was his name?
Muhammad Hassan.
Muhammad Hassan. Shortly after 9/11. Not shortly, but after the 9/11 had happened. I think I'm correct in saying it was after, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The problem with that gimmick, I mean, there were loads of problems with that gimmick, but it was a gimmick that was dealing with very rampant. Someone put it in such a good way. It was a country that had not collectively dealt with its trauma from those attacks, and there was a lot of rampant Islamophobia. There was a lot of like uncomfortable moments. And if you look at the Muhammad Hassan character when it started, I remember I watched his debut, and I was really interested by him because that first promo that he cuts where he says, I'm as American as apple pie. You hate me because I'm from another country. And that's not a reason to hate somebody. You know, I'm sick and tired of these stereotypes. And you're like, this is really good.
He's the real baby face.
Yeah.
He was the baby face in that situation, actually, in hindsight.
But then what happened was they basically just turned him into a one-act caricature. Adam Pacitti on Cultaholic, basically, he has this one phrase that I love where he says, "Let me explain wrestling of the 80s to you. America, yay. Everyone else, boo."
Exactly.
That's it. Like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically the Allied press and the audience basically saw this gimmick and thought, ooh, too soon. Yeah. Bit too close to the bone here. So that's what's been happening around the houses, except for one thing, and I will send you a picture of this to put on the podcast because I just found this pretty cheery because I don't want to end on such a dour note. Shawn Michaels, IRS, Repo Man, Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect were all on Family Feud. And yes, there is a picture, and yes, it is delightful. I just have a vision of like Razor Ramon. Now I gotta go watch that. Razor Ramon saying, "Oh, I'll take things you find in the kitchen for $300." You know, like
that's the thing. It wouldn't have been like recently. I think Becky Lynch, Big E, Kofi, names like that went on Family Feud, and you'd be like, they're just gonna be themselves. Like they're not gonna be. They're not going to be in gimmick. The man Becky Lynch is not going to be threatening whoever the host is. I think it was Steve Harvey, but anyway, unfortunately, not going to be threatening him to like put him in a disarmor or anything. But at this time, Razor Ramon was in character on Family Feud.
Oh god, yeah.
So can you imagine? I'm going to go watch that.
Yeah, no, I'll send you a link. It's worth a watch. But then we start off with our first match, and it's stereotype watch, everybody, as Tatanka Buffalo comes out.
Genuine question before we get onto this. Was Tatanka actually a Native American?
He was of Native American descent. Like he had enough to claim it that it wasn't problematic.
Listen.
So yes. He's okay on this one.
The guys are like the Stomp guys are getting at me because I'm a quarter Scottish and now I'm saying my Scottish senses are telling me Drew McIntyre is gonna win at Clash at the Castle. You guys will be watching this after it happens, but that's what my Scottish senses are telling me, and they saying, "Listen, you're a quarter Scottish. It doesn't count.
You can't claim that." Yeah,
yeah.
No, as far as I understand, Tatanka was he was either half Native American or he was full Native American. I'll do some research. In fact, we're going to put it right here in the edit balloon. That's some extra work for you.
Stop giving me work.
Let's see. Okay. Confirmation or oh no, we were wrong, depending on the answer.
I'm just asking because we did get characters like Yokozuna and characters like Akeem, the American whatever the Dream. What was his name? The African Dream. That's it.
Akeem, the African Dream. Yeah.
He had approximately 0.0% African in him. So
yeah. Hey, 23andMe. We're all a bit African.
Okay.
But yes, Tatanka makes his way to the ring. War dance, Tatanka, Buffalo. And I'm heartbroken to see the fall from grace of my boy, Damien Demento. Jobber entrance. He's already in the ring. They very quickly announce, and from the outer reaches of your mind, stole the greatest. I can't. By the way, it's not on 2K24. I'm so sad. I wanted to make that my location. They wouldn't let me. But for the they don't have Joe. They don't have Joburg, and they don't have the outer reaches of your mind.
Disappointing.
Yeah, disgusting. But Damien Demento is already in the ring, no entrance, and basically Tatanka starts his matches the way he starts off all of his matches, in the same way that Ricky starts off a Bry, solid, salty chops right in the corner, just chopping away at Demento, and goes quickly for a roll-up, which I found pretty surprising. Obviously, it's a one-count, quick kick-out, Tatanka straight into a body slam, and Demento rolls out of the ring, and I know I shouldn't find this funny, but he starts doing the gimmick where he's talking to his hands and talking to the spirits above, and I know it's not meant to be funny, but it did make me laugh.
That's hilarious. I'm thinking, listen, if you've got the brain capacity to pull off this character, because I don't even know what this character is, okay? Then you talking to a random thing in the sky makes me wonder, are you living through this character, or is that actually you? Because I do not know what's going on here. You have to be completely out of your mind to actually play this character in the first place, because like I said, what is this character? The Undertaker, you understand what he is. Whatever else, you understand what he is. But this, I kept thinking, remember Ultimate Warrior used to like talk to the spirits?
Sure. I mean, that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
The spirits, whatever it was, whatever he spoke to someone. And I'm thinking, are you trying to play like the Ultimate Character vibe? I mean, the Ultimate Warrior character, but you're also like half Undertaker. But at the same time, you went to a hairdresser that you should never ever have paid once you left there. I just don't know what's happening, and I know I'm not making sense right now, but that's because I can't fathom what this character is.
No, but it's because there was no exposition as to what he was. I mean, you got the weird outfit from the outer reaches of your mind, but then there was like no further explanation.
That's what.
So I think that there's only one thing that we can do here. Paul, Mr. Levesque, if you're listening, Damien Demento for Wyatt 6. Do it. You know, it's the right thing.
That'd be great. Just turn Dexter Loomis into Damien Demento.
Oh, dear Lord. I'm going to get him on 2K24 right now. But there was a joke that I remember it a long time ago from Cultaholic. And I had to do some Googling just to remember what the hell this was about. But Rob Bartlett drops one of his corkers again, where he says, "I think I finally figured it out. Damien Demento, he's Ruth Buzzy's love child." And I thought, what the hell is that?
What does that mean?
And I had to Google it. Ruth Buzzy was a character actor from the 1960s who would often play a spinster, cat lady kind of character. And the exact response that I got from 2.5 minutes of Googling to that joke was, huh. Just, I did all that work for just like,
for
okay.
Nice to know. Why is he making callbacks to things from the 1960s?
Because I think that's where Vince's like knowledge of like popular culture just ended. He's like,
I can see that, eh? I could really see that.
You'll see like later on with the way that Raw goes, like the musical guests and stuff they get. You can see that there was a cutoff. And I mean, there's a lot of people my age who are exactly the same. Like you'll see them when they talk to kids, and they'll go like, "Oh, so I mean, your kid's still listening to the LMFAO?" I'm like, "What, dude? like, are you okay? That was ages ago. Like, are you fine?"
They were a banger duo.
Sure. But would you want to talk to a 15-year-old about that? No, they would look at you like you had 5 heads.
They wouldn't know what it is. Like 2013 LMFAO. All I'm saying is they went off.
That was a banger.
They went off.
I was there. But anyway, Ruth Buzzy's love child then gets Tatanka up on. Tatanka does his war dance. He's jiving around. Chop, chop, chop. Big chop. End of the trail. 1, 2, 3. Goodbye, Damien Demento. Hello, winning streak for Tatanka. A winning streak that would become very, very famous in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a historic little match for us to watch.
Please don't ever use the phrase Tatanka up on again. That sounds like some sort of sexual innuendo, and I do not like it. Getting Tatanka on.
Yeah, it does. It
sounds like something Vince would do.
Oh God, no! Moving on. So Brett is back, and he is performing for the crowd by holding a giant check, which was raised by the Headlock on Hunger fundraising effort. What was quite nice is looking out of the crowd and seeing all of the faces that you maybe haven't seen in a while. I'm like, there's Jimmy Hart, there's Typhoon. Like, it's like, oh, cool. Okay, we're putting everyone together.
Yeah.
Bret Hart, he does the classic babyface promo where it's boring, it's to the point, but it is the classic, when you're at school and the head boy has to say, "Oh, we just want to thank the sponsors, the parents. Like, thank you so much. Like, guys, you really we really did our best here." Like, it was just one of those like, oh, okay,
exactly that.
Whatever, man.
$100,000 to this charity when WWF were not doing so well financially. Yeah. Hey, props to them. I suppose Vince was trying to get some good PR after all his scandals in recent years.
Please forget about the steroids, please. We're a good company.
Or the other allegations with the referee. I don't know if that's happened already or still needs to happen.
Rita Chatterton's happened already. The Ring Boy scandals happened already. Yeah. I think that was also another big downturn in wrestling's perception at this point. Is that you're trying to do this like happy cartoon family friendly show. But everyone kind of knows, like, there's some bad stuff happening in the background. It's kind of like going to a children's show knowing that like the puppeteers are just doing like rails of coke like behind the scenes. Like this is uncomfortable.
It's like the character, like Barney the character. Like, do you remember Barney?
Yeah, Barney the dinosaur, yeah.
Drug addict, pedophile, all of the above, and yet we all watched him as kids.
Barney is a dinosaur, he sure was. But anyway, we now have a return to form as Vince McMahon introduces, I would now like to welcome back one of the all-time greats. And it's Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And here he comes out, strutting and cutting. We have not seen Brutus the Barber Beefcake on our TV screens in a long time. And this is following a horrible parasailing accident in which a female parasailer's knees buckled into his nose and essentially smashed his skull in many places and basically almost killed him. And he does allude to this in the promo, but that is maybe one part of this very emotional.
He was down already. He was in the very already.
This was a very intense emotional promo, and I don't really know how to feel about it, because I think that the content of what he was saying was very sad and very, and very moving.
Very real as well.
Very real. And the thing is, like, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, he was never known as a bad talker, but I mean, he wouldn't make my list for, top 20, top 30, top 40 talkers, but he was good here. He was speaking from the heart. My only note about this, there were two things that I didn't like about this. Number one, it went on a bit long. And the thing is, like, when it goes, and I understand that he had a lot to get off his chest, and I understand that it's a very moving promo and it was very real. But unless your name is Cody Rhodes or CM Punk, you can't get away with long emotional promos in wrestling because people aren't going to sit through it. That was the first problem I had. Because I think this would have been a lot more effective as a pre-recorded message. Like, I'm imagining
you could do like a sit down with Vince on one side or whoever on one side and him on the other side, and you do a sit down talk and it's straight to the point, quick.
Yeah. I'm imagining, look, I understand that maybe they wanted to get that big return pop, and he did get a big pop. I mean, Brutus was a big star in the 80s. Yeah. But I'm imagining like him sitting next to a crackling fire with like a nice sweater, and Vince kind of asking him, so what happened after the accident? Like that for me would really have worked more as a pre-recorded thing. Because the other thing that didn't work was, this is a New York crowd, the snarkiest of the snarkiest of the snarkiest.
They don't care.
And they don't. And some of them were very callous. I don't know if you heard this, but we'll give it like a blow by blow of what Brutus was speaking about. The first thing that he says,
sexual innuendos. You need to stop, Michael.
Oh boy, it's your mind that's playing this up. But
the thing is, I'm watching Vince. There's no other way to think about things, unfortunately. But carry on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Brutus has this emotional promo, and he basically starts speaking about the fact of what happened to him, and it's a pretty harrowing story.
Very bad.
That he loses his job with the World Wrestling Federation. Then his wife slaps him with divorce papers.
No, first his parents die.
Yeah. His parents die. Yes, sir. He buried his mom. Yes. And he buried his dad. Then his wife slaps him with divorce papers. Yes. And then the parasailing accident happens. And it was genuinely like,
at that point, you're just asking for someone just to take you, because
tap out, baby. Yeah.
That is rough, baby. That is really rough. Lose your parents. Your wife slaps you with divorce papers, and then some random woman knees you in the face. Like, she V-triggered you while parasailing. She V-triggered you in the face. That's wild.
That is to this day, that is the most deadly knee to the face in wrestling history. But I think that if you watch his Dark Side of the Ring, you'll also see that he was so destitute at this point that he was working as a toll booth attendant, and he was fired for doing cocaine on the job. It was a really intense emotional promo, and basically, if you watched his Dark Side of the Ring, this was at the time where he was so destitute, he was working as a toll booth attendant and was fired for cocaine use on the job. So this guy is at the bottom of the barrel. Like, he's really kind of spiraled down. And I felt, sad. And I'm a human being, so I hear this, and I'm getting emotional, and I'm being affected by it. but because it is a New York crowd, it was a period, I'm sure you heard it, where he's saying, well, I had to bury my mom and then my dad. My wife hit me with divorce papers and ran off with some barfly. And then I got kneed in the face and I break every bone in my skull. What do I do? Dead silence, some guy. Kill yourself. And I was like, oh my God. That was so mean.
Wild. New York is a different place, eh? New York
it really is. If a booker had to tell me go and cut an emotional promo, I'll say no problem. I say in New York, I'm like, can't I just go make fun of a kid or something? Like that's way better.
Yeah, he should have just rushed through it like Kalani Jordan did her promo on NXT. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Yeah, it was very quick.
She rushed through that thing like, you know when you like doing a speech in school and you're reading your
Goeiemorgen mevrou, op my zomervakantie. Ek het like very quick.
Rush through it and that. You should have rushed through it, not given any dead air for someone to say something like that. That would have been the only safe option at this point.
I think that it's weird. I think that it's tough to produce an emotional promo like this because you want that pop, you want that return, you want the performer to, because it was a good promo, like for him to get connected to the subject matter. But where it got very interesting was when he said, and there was one man who was there for me throughout all of it, and it was Hulk Hogan. And did you hear the crowd? It was half yay and half boo. Like the most comparable reaction I've ever heard was CM Punk coming out at Forbidden Door 2023, where it was like, oh,
exactly that.
It was that very polarized, like, whoa, how do we feel about this guy?
Let's talk about this for a moment, because Hulk Hogan, in hindsight, is not the nicest guy. We know this. Well, let me rephrase. I think he has his good qualities with some people, and he has his other qualities. You know, we can't say someone is just straight. This is how they are. Everybody is quite quite varied in their reaction, in their emotions, in their reactions. We know this, okay?
Sure.
But Terry, we know, is not the nicest guy in the world. Okay. Do you really think he was sitting there the whole time after Beefcake's accident, holding his hand, saying, "I'm here for you, brother. We'll get through this, brother"? Do you believe that?
I don't know, actually.
Because they are best friends. They are really, really, really good friends. Like, the only reason Beefcake probably got this job is probably because of Hogan. Let's be honest.
Yeah, probably.
Vince doesn't have a caring bone in his body.
Nah.
So
no, I don't know. Like, I think that it's one of those things where it's wrestling, and I think that you always have to take a look at whatever wrestlers say with a pinch of salt, because they're quite genuinely paid. They're paid to lie. That's the whole deal. Some of them 100%. Don't even get paid. They just lie for fun. But there is a tendency for me to believe that it's so sort of specific that it doesn't seem like a lie. You know what I mean? Like there's something. There's probably something there.
In it. I hear that.
Exactly.
He was probably the only person there for him in a friendly sense, because he lost his parents, he lost his wife, he lost all of that. So maybe as a friend, he was the only person there for him. I just don't. Obviously, with a pinch of salt. Obviously, everything is taken to a whole new level. You know, nothing is exactly the truth. Obviously, they explode everything, bring everything out bigger than what it actually was. But I just think Hulk Hogan is maybe not the best person for this fit the story. But obviously, at the same time, he is, because they're real friends. I don't know. I'm conflicted here because I don't like Hogan, and he's doing a nice thing, and it's irritating me.
Well, I mean, look, the truth is always somewhere in the middle of everything, and I think that, look, there's a part of me that thinks they are lifelong childhood friends. It's not completely unthinkable that they would have this kind of supportive relationship, but at the same time, there is also that sense of, well, we got to get Brutus back in the fade. We got to work an angle here, brother. Like, how do we do it? You know, like, so there's a part. Like, I get it. I mean,
yeah, I
think there's a part of me that that kind of is not as cynical as you. But I think what I really loved about this promo was there was a flash to, if someone had to screenshot that, if you had to explain to a kid what the 1990s were, this was the best way to describe it. There was a woman with the biggest, most voluminous blonde hair you've ever seen, a red power suit, and a giant camera taking photos of Brutus as he was talking. And I was like, that's the 90s. Like, that's exactly what that's exactly what it is. And that made me laugh a little bit. And basically Brutus ends by saying that he's back in the World Wrestling Federation. He wants to do his best, and with Hulk Hogan by his side, there's nothing that can beat him. It's sweet. Went on a bit long. The New York crowd didn't care towards the end, but he got a big pop, and people are happy to see Brutus again.
You know what it is? I just feel this is like a clear PR movement to try and save Hogan at this point. Because Hogan is not in a good place right now due to the steroids. And I don't know what else, but mainly due to the steroid issues. Because for years it was take your vitamins, say your prayers, I don't know what else he said, and you'll end up being like me, in other words. And then you find out, oh, you forgot to mention the extra testosterone you were injecting, the extra this you were injecting. Forgot to mention all that, you know, and it's just like, there's clearly, to me, it just seems like a PR move just to make him look really good. Well,
with all due respect, he did say take your vitamins. He didn't say which vitamins they were, so maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't lie. I'm just saying. But anyway, we move on to our next match, and it is a very, very quick blink and you'll miss it match. But I was very happy because I got to hear my high energy song, and my boy Owen Hart came through. And what I loved about seeing this version of Owen Hart is that it's kind of like seeing a little Squirtle knowing he's going to be Blastoise in a few months. You're just like, oh, look at his stupid pants. Look at his stupid pants. Yeah. Like, you're going to be one of the best technical wrestlers in the world soon. But right now, you're Coco's friend, and that's fine. And you're wrestling against two jabronis, but one of them is one of Van Krush and one of my favorite jobbers of all time, Iron Mike Sharp, or as he likes to call himself, he yelled so much. He was so loud.
I didn't notice that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's very grunty. Anytime you see Mike, it's actually like a joke. And anytime you see Mike Sharp in a match, like, oh, here we go. He says, and somebody said that he looked like chunky David Hasselhoff. Well, I suppose now that's just David Hasselhoff. And I can't unsee it. I'm like, it is. You know?
Yeah, we also gotta. Let me not go there. I was gonna say something. Let me be quiet. Yeah. No. It's safer.
Something.
We don't want to get cancelled so early.
That's true. Something for the edit then. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very like sort of meat and potatoes jobber squash match, but not the way that you would think it would be, because Mike Sharp gets a lot of offense in the first couple of minutes. Like, he's pushing Owen over, he's clotheslining Owen over. Owen is just like going like a pinball.
Yeah.
And then almost out of nowhere, Owen does a very smart leg sweep. He does a double flip over, and then him and Coco do the wishbone spot. That was it.
Done.
That was it. Like, if you got up to go get a glass of water from the kitchen, the match is done. You missed it. But
it didn't feel like a squash match either. You know what I'm trying to say? It was like a competitive match that lasted 2 minutes.
Pretty much. I think it was the whole thing of like, you watch and you go, what it was is that it was like a squash match in reverse, in that you see the big guys and you see the goofy guys in the pants, and you think, well, the big guys are going to take this.
Yeah.
And then Owen once again proving, like, I am too good to be here. Why am I not in the IC title picture? Boom, leg sweep, drop quick, wishbone, we're done. And I was like, yeah, job done.
Very, very simple stuff. Then we moved on to the next match. The match that was announced last week. The match that Vince was hoping would bump the TV ratings, because he clearly announced it last week. And we had Doink the Clown taking on Typhoon. The worst of the two natural disasters.
Mm-hmm. I've literally put that in my notes here. Thanks, I hate it. Thanks, I hate it.
Great.
I'm gonna get the one good spot out of the way, because, like, again, when I talk about the fact that I don't like Doink, I am not, and I'm going to say this to anyone who's going to try and be snarky in the comments or snarky at me on Instagram, I really like Matt Bourne. I'm saying that again.
Agreed.
I really like Matt Bourne. He's a very good performer and a very good wrestler.
Agreed.
I don't like this gimmick. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't like clowns.
Yeah.
But there was one move of his that I really, really liked. He did a leg sweep into an elbow and straight into a headlock takeover, and he did that in about 20 seconds. I was like, that is fantastic. That was really
Bourne
great.
can wrestle. Matt Bourne can wrestle. Doink the Clown. It's terrible.
And that was the last good thing that I'm going to say about this match, because the rest of it was just rest hold the musical. Like, it was just rest holds the whole time.
Do you want to know what my one and only note is here?
What?
What did I just watch with 3 question marks?
Yeah.
That's my one and only note.
Here's a couple of things that I put down. So there is a sleeper hold, and I mean it's a good move because it's, Doink is smaller. That is, I mean, Matt Bourne is actually quite big. Doink is small, Typhoon is huge. Let me do a sleeper hold to try and grind him down. But then Typhoon powers out of it, and then he puts a sleeper hold onto Doink. That goes on for a while, and then Doink gets a head full of steam and gets a handful of tights, rolls him up, and I've written here, Doink wins and I'm dead inside. Just
let me ask you a question. How long do you think this match went? Give me a time.
It felt like 37 years, but I'm gonna say 2 minutes 15 seconds.
Okay, I thought you were gonna give me like a 10-minute something, because that's what it felt like. But no, it was 3 minutes 12.
Okay, all right, still pretty long. One thing that I did not like about this, and I understand that, we're human beings and no one's perfect, but Doink the Clown's sweat patch got bigger and bigger as the match went on, and I just hated it so much. It was just, I don't know, like when you watch like a really bad movie, and you just find more things to hate as the movie progresses. That was kind of it. It was like, oh god, the sweat patch. Oh god, that piece of the ring's dirty. Oh god, that kid's picking his nose in the front row. Like, that's just, I kept seeing things that just made me sad. And it was one of those moments that I almost messaged you and said, Ricky, come on, man. You're getting your degree. I've got a few degrees. Like, why are we doing this? We're smarter than this. Like,
Very true.
Is there nothing else we can do with our time? What is this?
I can feel my IQ level dropping every time I watch an episode of Raw in the 1990s. Literally it drops piece by piece, and I think by the end of this we're just going to be like vegetables sitting here like just absolutely unable to talk,
just rocking back and forth in the shower.
This will be the podcast. Just this.
Doink versus Mabel. Doink versus Mabel. But I think that what makes this sad is that it's kind of like being in an abusive relationship, because they give us Ric Flair versus Perfect. They give us like Ric Flair versus they give us Terry Taylor versus Mr. Perfect. They give us Razor Ramon versus Bret. You're like, oh my god, wrestling is amazing. And then it's just, oh god, like, we're back to this again.
That's like the makeup sex to the argument that we've just had.
Yeah.
Like,
I can change.
I can change. I've changed.
The Raw's like, I can change, honey. I'm different now. And then the next week, like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, then he starts drinking again, and we get Doink versus Typhoon. That's what this is about.
It's a really good explanation, actually. But yeah, then after that, we get a 10-bell salute. Yeah. Andre the Giant. I mean, look, there isn't much that I can say here. Like, I mean, it's, once again, the gear changes on the show are just so strange in that we get a Native American man beating up a man from the underworld. Then we get like, a guy talking about how his life was ruined from the parasailing accident. Then a clown versus a big guy.
Then like this.
Then a clown versus a big guy, and then let's do a 10-bell salute for probably the greatest giant that the wrestling world has ever seen. It's just like, what is this show? It's like the weirdest variety show I've ever watched.
To that point, he was probably the top 3 biggest stars they've ever had.
Without a doubt.
Well, easily. Yeah. That's not a hot take or a hot unpopular opinion. That is fact. He's in the top 3. It's Hogan, him, and San Martino.
Yeah, no question about it.
At that point. And all they gave him was a little... I'm not saying all they gave him was a 10-bell salute, but they gave him a 10-bell salute and then moved the fuck on.
Yeah, and it's a real testament to how they've like moved on in later years, because like you think about it when a star dies, like you think about someone when Bray Wyatt died, the entire episode was dedicated to him. You think about, there are very similar times where, and not only would it be dedicated to Bray Wyatt, but the matches would be sort of themed around that. Some of the storylines would be themed around that. I mean, for crying out loud, when Eddie Guerrero passed away, like every storyline that Rey Mysterio was involved with for the next 2 years had something to do with Eddie.
Yeah.
And this was something, like, whether that was good or bad, you make up your mind. But the fact that Andre the Giant passes away, one of the greatest talents they've ever had, and they're like, ding, ding, ding. Obviously, 10 bell salute. If you're a wrestler, you know that that's a very important, important thing in our culture. I've only been in the wrestling profession for almost 2 years now, and I have unfortunately been to more 10 bell salutes than I care to count. Like, it's very sad, but it's very respectful. But it does make you think, like, for Andre, really? This is it? Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. But once again, another gear change very quickly into one big man to another big man, Yokozuna. But here's something that I noticed. Vince McMahon said the phrase big man 12 times in this episode. He refers to Hulk Hogan as the big man. He refers to Brutus as a big man. And then when Yokozuna comes out, he says, here comes the big man. And when he refers to Andre the Giant's passing, the passing of the big man. So he obviously just had big man on his
He found a new catchphrase.
If you took a shot every single time he said big man, you would be sauced, which is good, because then maybe that's what he wanted, because then Doink the Clown versus Typhoon wouldn't have been that bad.
Maybe that's what we got to do to get through these shows.
You think you want that? You think you want that? You don't want that. I think it's like one of those things where I had a buddy of mine in varsity, a proper stoner, and he basically had this idea that he was going to, do his recreational activities, and he was going to watch The Human Centipede. He had never seen it before, and he thought that he was going to go watch it in the cinema, and he thought that it was like, oh, it's going to be like so much more like conceptual, like when I'm in that frame of mind. And he came back as white as a sheet, man. So I think it's one of those things that it sounds good in theory, but after we do it, that's when we're really going to get miserable. We'll be those like drunks on the side of the bar going, and then Doink the Clown came out, and he's like, not to mention it's like 11 a.m. for you. If you start drinking at 11 a.m., I think we really need to take you to see somebody.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So we had Yokozuna taking on Bobby DeVito, the long lost cousin of Danny DeVito. And
Sure.
Yeah, quick squash match as well. Like, literally, how long did this match last? I got it here somewhere, I think. Maybe I don't. I don't know. It was really, really, really quick. It didn't last very long. Yoko landed the bonsai drop. Done for, pretty much.
Yeah. But look, to be honest with you, Yokozuna is one of the few things that they're really doing right in the build-up to Raw, in the sense of that they kept the amazing presentation. I know I get goosebumps every time I see him with the geishas and the flag and the salt. I've written here, I think I have a crush on one of the geishas, the left geisha. So whoever you are, hope you're good.
Let's hope your girlfriend doesn't watch this.
No, she gets it. It's a geisha from it's a geisha from 1993. We're fine.
Yeah, she's like 50 now, so it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, she probably lives around here. Maybe I can go say what's up. That would be an interesting introduction. Were you the geisha from Yokozuna's entrance? Like, get away from me, Gaijin. What the hell? But like very like to the point match, like very good presentation. Uranagi slam straight into the bonsai drop, and like that's it. One thing that was really cool. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to talk about the phone call that they received. Were you going to talk about that?
Oh God, I hated this.
Yes. From Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh boy.
I don't know what this was, but don't know what his issue with Yokozuna is, other than the fact that he's Japanese. So
I
casual little sprinkling of racism in there. Just chuck it in.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh no, that was if that was casual racism, then he was a tank top at a wedding, dude. This was like proper xenophobic racism, and like I've actually written down here, he calls him some, I'm not even going to say the word, and I just said, screw Jim Duggan. Like, I'm just like,
wait,
screw this guy.
Did I miss something? What did he actually, you don't have to like maybe just beat around the bush, but what did he actually say?
A derogatory term for a Japanese national. And it was something.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
hear
yeah.
that. I was half paying attention because
Well, you're
yeah.
lucky because the thing is like I've never gotten Jim Duggan because I'm not American. So the whole like USA,
Oh,
I'm like okay, like
yeah,
whatever.
I hear
But
you.
this made me go like, well, no, I don't like you. I'm sorry, man. And
Yeah,
I think as well, a lot of the time when Vince McMahon does his like patriotic America versus the world angle, look, I get it. I'm not made of stone. Like I understand that sometimes that works. Like if you watch Rocky IV, him versus Ivan Drago, because at that point there was a real red scare in the sense of that Russia was this threatening force that America like actually was threatened by. Funny how times change, it's exactly the same now.
yeah.
So if they had done like an angle of America versus Russia in the 1980s, makes a bit of sense. If it was the when Japanese wrestling started picking up in the 1950s, everything was Japan versus America because Japan did not like America because of all the crap that they put them through.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But America versus Japan, what are we pulling from here? We're sick and tired of them making our high quality cars and high quality technology and sending us like their best baseball athletes and like what are we complaining about here? Like
At this point, it's just pure xenophobia because there's no overarching issue.
It was really weird. It's like really uncomfortable. And the thing is, like, as a South African watching this, I really don't get it because we were like, what? Like, what are you complaining about? I just didn't make. And like, I kept googling like stuff like what was like, were there any sort of like tensions between it? But I mean, can you imagine?
Nah, that's just Hacksaw. You just has a problem.
But the thing that like really made me angry about this is like, can you imagine? Kenichiro Tenryu just came through, and he had a good showing at the Royal Rumble, and he goes back home, and now he's like, maybe I'll go back to the Fed. He turns on Raw. He sees this crap. Tenryu's not coming back. There's no way.
No.
No. And you think, but like more importantly, what if you're the geishas backstage? They must be like, what the hell is this?
It doesn't even offend Yokozuna. He's not Japanese.
He's Samoan. He's from San Francisco.
And so now you're just targeting the Japanese people because he's not even Japanese.
I don't get this angle, man. Like if you ran this angle in 1946, it's not great, but at least it makes sense. Now it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll get off my. I'm sure like we're gonna get like liberal Kirk snowflakes, America, yay in the comments. Cool, that's your right, sir or ma'am. I'm assuming, sir. You can.
Why are you assuming genders?
Because if anyone is going to say freedom and free with, could be anything. I'm moving swiftly on, sir. I'm moving swiftly on, because we get on to a very, very strange promo. Like again, a lot of the time watching Raw is like watching an acid trip. What is happening here? But I got very excited because Ted DiBiase, I love me some $1 Million Man, but this is when you realize that even the greatest performers don't bat 1,000. Because IRS, Ted DiBiase, and Jimmy Hart Walcott, Money Incorporated, and the promo is so that Ted DiBiase can explain his intentions as far as the now incumbent Brutus Beefcake. But he starts off really, really weirdly by saying, well, let me tell you, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. I've literally written here, I hate this Raw so much. because like even the interviewer, I think it was Gene, was like, what does that mean? And he goes,
no, it was Vince. Well, Gene
it was Vince, yeah. Right. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what it means. Because like even the crowd is like, excuse me? And he starts going on and on and on. But what I really, really liked was IRS. He was saying what he was saying with so much fire and so much fury. But what he was saying was complete bobbins. It was like he was, and now you're sitting in the hospital and all of your hospital bills are piling up and you're not paying any taxes, just like the tax cheats here in New York. And it was just this thing of like the emotional intensity did not match the content. And
exactly,
I just thought like
exactly that.
Like this.
You guys are on two different storylines here. Two different storylines.
this is so weird. And I mean, that has been the basis of this entire Raw. We had this, for the last 2 weeks. Last week we had Macho Man Randy Savage and Reaper Man fighting for a hat, but they were fighting like it was like a street fight. And this is the same thing where like IRS is kind of approaching this, it's a goofy character, it's a goofy angle, and he's approaching it with this like insane severity. And it just doesn't fit. But there was one line that, just to give you a summary of like what this promo was about, because God knows Ted didn't know when he started. But the whole thing was basically, okay, Brutus is back. We're going to make you regret you ever coming into the WWF, because we are going to knock you around and make you leave. And something he said that I really, really liked is he said, you've got no money, you've got no home, you've got no wife. The one thing you've got is your $1 million face. And it would be a shame if something should happen to that.
That's what he should have done this whole promo around.
That's the whole
exactly
promo.
That. You've got no wife. You couldn't afford to. You couldn't keep your wife around because you had no money. Your parents died. You got hit. You got V-triggered in the face by a parasailor, and I'm gonna now break your $1 million face, and then you'll have nothing left. That's what this should have been about. Eventually, though, to decide who's actually gonna face Brutus Beefcake, they do a coin toss.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we know Ted DiBiase wins this coin toss. They busy going back and forth, and then out comes Jimmy Hart out of nowhere. Was he their manager at this point?
He was, yeah.
That's an odd fit, but anyway, I don't feel like they need a manager. They can both talk. But anyway,
I don't know. After that Humpty Dumpty thing, I'm glad that Jimmy Hart was there to make the save.
Maybe. We do know Jimmy Hart turns to the red and blue eventually.
Waiting.
Not red and blue. Red
waiting.
and yellow. Are you?
We're waiting.
What's happened?
Just doing this until you come back. I hope you don't turn this into a GIF. Hope you don't turn this into a GIF. There.
I could hear you the whole time. Anyway.
So weird. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It was a weird pairing, and in theory, both of them can talk. But at the same time, Ted kind of went off the deep end here, and it was really nice that Jimmy Hart was there to kind of save it. And something that Jimmy Hart, I think because Jimmy Hart is often paired with more goofier pairings in wrestling, you forget that he is actually a very good orator. I mean, this is the guy who used to, you're a huge Memphis fan. I mean, he was inextricably linked to Memphis for the longest time. And you forget that he hated. But you forget that he can not only talk, and is like, ha, baby, I'm coming, I'm Jimmy Hart. But he can also do sort of very cognizant, sincere interviews.
Yes.
And one of the things that I loved is him acting like a sensible business manager, of him saying, well, it doesn't make any sense. I get it that you want to play around with Brutus Beefcake because you guys are dicks. But if you get injured, we lose the belts. We have no more money.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Logical.
And it made me go thank God for Jimmy Hart, because now I'm brought away from happy haha cartoon bollocks to men are fighting here. This is a contest of combat sports. Yeah. And it was just nice to get that back on the track. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, next week we're getting Brutus and Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, check your calendar, guys. It's not 1986. It is inextricably 1993. It's happening again. Say,
I wanted to mention it earlier. Brutus was one of my favorites when I went back and watched all the 80s stuff. I don't know why.
Really?
I really liked him. I have no idea why. I didn't like his early heel stuff as much. I just didn't really care for it. Not saying he was bad or good, but I didn't really care for it, especially when he was teamed up with Greg Valentine.
Greg Valentine, the dream team, baby.
The dream team.
Yeah.
But once he turned face, I don't know why. I kind of liked him.
Strutting and cutting, baby. Yeah, okay. There's no accounting for taste. If you liked him, you liked him. Good for you. But now we get onto the next performer, and all I could think of was his outfit made me hungry for a baked potato, because it was just a big foil cape.
Oh, can I tell you what I thought of then? And I thought that I missed a match.
Yeah.
I thought of the Bastion Booger, and I thought I missed a match.
Oh, no.
He looks like a baked potato. So
no. Well, yeah, we ain't here to body shame. I'm just here to fashion shame. You can change fashion, but yes, This is the match debut of Lex Luger. And Lex Luger, he comes out, he looks like $1,000,000. He's got the foil silver robe. They've got the mirrors in the ring. He takes it off. He's made out of marble. He's jacked to the gills. But they work in a little comedy spot in which let's just say a full-bodied woman of a more casual dispensation than the other ring girls that ring woman that we've been seeing into the ring. And Lex Luger is so disgusted that a human being looks like a human being and not 12 chicken tenders put into a plastic bag like he is. And it's classic old school heel of like, how dare you not have a 12-pack like me? Grr. But interesting. Yeah.
Your comment earlier about the chunky looking David Hasselhoff?
Sure.
I might cut this out. I'll see how I feel on the day. But I was going to say, later on, we saw a chunky version of Pamela Anderson.
I mean, yeah, the worst people to be chunky versions of. Fair enough.
It might not be funny, but I found it funny in my head. But yeah, Lex Luger. Let's go back to him. Standing in there with the mirrors again, or with one mirror this time.
Yeah.
Kind of awkward. Do I just have one random mirror in the ring, and you're just looking at yourself? Very weird. You could have done that in the back.
It's not about you, buddy. It's about him. He worked out. He earned that body. He's looking at himself. This is about him. He's having a good day.
Takes the same vitamins that Hulk Hogan does. We know this.
Hey, Hulk Hogan wishes he looked like Lex Luger, and you can kind of see why Vince had the dollar signs in his head for this guy. I mean, he looks like what would happen if Sting, the singer, not the wrestler, the singer Sting. Yeah, Google pictures, you'll see what I mean. The singer Sting, jacked up with Rick Rude's body. That's Lex Luger, and I think that it was a good showing. What was quite interesting in the Wrestling Observer was apparently people did not dig this match. They started yelling boring and started yelling you suck, that sort of deal. It wasn't bad. I think that it wasn't, it wasn't going to change the world, but I think it was a very good introduction to who he was, which is he's a big bully.
Last week's main event was Ric Flair versus Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, it's a bit of
this week's main event is the North Lex Luger versus a man called Jason Knight.
Jason Knight.
Do you know who Jason Knight is? Do you have any idea?
That's Midian, right?
I have no idea. I'm asking you, do you know who he is? Because I have no idea who he is.
I don't know. I honestly don't.
Exactly.
At this point, I did think about being one of those podcasts that went well, I think you'll find that this enhancement talent actually worked in the territories, and he did. I'm just no, come on,
he's nobody.
He's not nobody, but it's his role on the. I'll put it to you this way: if you're watching a movie and there's a lead character, and the lead character is someone who has a sense of charisma, somebody who's kind of captivating the film, you'd want to know about
Lex Luger. No charisma.
You said that. I didn't say that, but you'd want to know more about this actor. But if you're a supporting actor, I'm a South African actor, and I've been in some American films. Now I have been part of the leading cast in some films, but there are a lot of American films where I'm the gas station attendant. Do you think anyone in the world is going to look up who that gas station attendant was? No, you're there to fulfill a role. You fulfilled the role. Now bugger off. It's that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel about enhancement talents. And I say that as a wrestler who has worked as an enhancement talent. Before I left for Japan, I put over 2 guys. It's it
Let's
happens.
not talk about that.
But anyway, Lex Luger, it's a good showing for what he is. He is a narcissistic, it's all in the name, big bully who body slams this guy, does a hard forearm to the back of the head, and pins him.
Who does he think he is? Misawa? Please.
Good. Do you feel good about that reference? You want to pat yourself on the back there? Okay.
I watched the Misawa video yesterday, and they were talking about his elbow strike, and I was like,
Misawa's forearm is God, is what they used to say, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he pins him with the one pinky on the chest, like ultimate badass, ultimate look how cool I am. He gets the win. The crowd, yeah, half boos, half cheers. They're kind of undecided. And this was what I thought was quite strange. Lex Luger decides to get some heat after the match and poor Mr. Knight. And he decides to grip him and unleash a devastating, death-defying, earth-rattling swing. Which I was like, really? Like that's isn't your finisher the wasn't your finisher the torture rack in the WCW? Like what are we doing here?
Now all of a sudden he has a titanium plate in his arm that apparently is deadly.
Yeah, which is a shoot. He got a titanium
is it a
plate
shoot?
in his arm. Yeah, he got a titanium plate in his arm from after the motorcycle accident that took him out of the WWF. So Vince has now decided. So here's another thing. Vince has always liked big punches on his big guys. Think about Lex Luger, Roman Reigns loves a big punch.
Big Show.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Big Show punched you, you're done. But
you said big punch, not good punch.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's the end of the show. And then once again, because Vince McMahon does not know how to end a show on not a high, but certainly higher, he says one of my favorite lines that I've ever heard in classic Raw history, where he says, and just to let you know, we're not going to be on next week because of the dog show. That wasn't a joke. There is literally the Westminster Dog Show that preempts Monday Night Raw. Just to let you know, it was won by Sally Lynn, who owned a condor named Rufus. So good on you, Rufus.
That's more information I didn't need.
Yeah, all I can think of when looking at this is Rufus totally deserved to win. He was a beautiful dog, but that dog is just so dead right now. Like that's all I can think of. Like that dog is so dead. But yes, Vince McMahon then welcomes us to the next episode of Raw, which will happen in 2 weeks. And it is going to be host to a 16-man over-the-top rope battle royal, which will be quite interesting. And that match, I've got bad vibes about that match, and you'll see why when it rolls around.
Yeah, so this was a terrible show of Raw.
I hated it.
I hated watching it. It was torture. 45 minutes of my life I'll never get back. The only decent part was Brutus, the story that he was trying to portray. But it just, the New York crowd didn't quite take to it.
It was like depressing. Like the best way that I can describe it is that Brutus the Beefcake's little epitaph was kind of like you're at like a very depressing night out. Like you've gone out to like a bar, like a flea market, like a place you don't want to be at. And he's like the kind of chilled guy that you meet at the bar. But even like, it's not like it wasn't an uplifting story. It's not like, so tell me about your life. Well, first my mom died, and then my dad died, and then I got divorced. Like, whoa, this is like a bit heavy. Yeah. Then you go and watch the clown and the bodybuilder and the I hate it.
I hear you. Yeah, it just wasn't so great.
This show.
I think we can move on swiftly from it.
Please.
We've given our feelings, but since there's no Raw next week, should we do a different episode? Focus on something else.
The Westminster Dog Show. I feel you. I mean, I've spoiled the ending, but I think we could still watch it.
Please no. Please no. So let us know if you're still listening to this by this point. I mean, we are an hour and 20 in. And I know Michael's voice can be a lot to handle. But,
I apologize.
Let us know down below what you guys want us to watch and then talk about next week. Could be absolutely anything. If you want us to go into All Japan, if you want us to go into the start of Noah, if you want us to go into WCW, ECW, TNA, whatever, let us know down below and then we'll have a look at it.
Nothing's off the table. I think what Ricky and I will also do is we'll put the suggestions tab on Instagram.
Yes.
And say, well, what do you guys want to see? And we'll tally up the votes. And if any of you try and put on Heroes of Wrestling, I'm going to forward your address to the authorities, and we'll just get to the bottom of that. But otherwise, nothing's off the table. You know, I'm excited to talk about something. be gentle. We just had to watch Raw, and this wasn't a great episode.
Give us something good. Give us something good.
Something good. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, we'll see you guys next week, and take care.
Adios.